Heidi-ho, Twins fans. Once again, this is not Sweet Lou Hennessy coming to you. This is old Greg Masterson. Lou is still in jail. Something about an orphanage, something about crimes. I'm not really sure, but we hope that he's back safe and sound soon after doing his time and paying back his debt to society. The Twins have had a rough stretch, but we are here to talk through it the last 6 days of games on the Twins Off Daily podcast brought to you by Twins Daily. I've got old Comrade Cody, and I've got a guest, Peter Labuza. So let's, Peter, how are we doing? We'll go for you first.
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here. I know you've had too many, centrist and right-leaning voices on the show like Cody, so I'm kind of hoping to balance it out better.
Oh, man, I am going to be shouted down today. I can't believe this. I'm a free speech absolutist, and I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyway, Cody, welcome to the show. I know that you're not a regular either.
I am an apolitical baseball commentator. When I put on my Make America Great Again hat and I talk about baseball, that is me being apolitical. So
glad we're sticking to sports.
What?
Glad we're sticking to sports.
Yes, stick to sports. You know what, Greg? Shut up and dribble.
All righty. Well, I can already tell that this show is going to go off the rails. So before we start, opening up the box of just complaints and whining and whatever else we're going to get into today, I want to introduce the walk-off question. So Rafael Devers just got traded. One of just, I think, stranger trades. I did have to laugh because it seems like it's the second spite trade of the week where the Red Sox were just sick of him. So they're like, fine, go to San Francisco where you still will not play third base and just have them deal with it. And that comes 3 days after Aaron Savali of the Brewers requested a trade and then immediately got sent to the Chicago White Sox. I feel like that's back-to-back spite trades. So I'm really excited to see what the rest of next week goes. But anyway, so Rafael Devers just got traded. So the walk-off question is, what major MLB player would you be interested in the Twins trading for? Who knows? By the time we next speak, we might talk about the Twins needing to get rid of their major players. Not that I'm dooming or anything, but anyway, that'll be our walk-off question. But now that that's out of the way, let's get into our rapid recap. All right, so if you've been living under a rock, things have not been going so great in Twins territory. They had a series at home against the Texas Rangers, who were scuffling, so maybe they were going to be kind of a soft landing pad the Twins could get right against. Nope, they went 1-2 against the Texas Rangers. Then they went on the road to Houston, and they got swept. Who's hot, who's not? I feel like the who's hot might be a little bit short, but we'll start with who's hot. Let's start with Cody. Who do you have on your who's hot right now?
Who's hot? Joe Ryan. Beyond his appearance, he is also a hot pitcher. I would say he might be like the only good starting pitcher right now, which is kind of sad because, Ober, we can talk about, his off-field issues. I know he's battling through a hip injury right now. David Festa and Simeon Woods-Richardson are inconsistent. I mean, they do have high moments. I mean, we saw Festa pitch well against Texas. We saw Sim pitch well against Houston through 5 innings. And then, Chris Paddock got absolutely shelled in Houston. So,
man, you triggered it real early, but you said the magic word. So it's time to check in on Chris Paddock. It's time for everybody's favorite segment. Is Chris Paddock still a Twin? And as of June 15th, 2025, Chris Paddock is still a Twin. All right, back to you complaining about the rotation, Cody.
Yay, Chris Paddock's still a Twin. Might not become the trade deadline. But regardless, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, just given, baseball, you always kind of regress to the mean. I think it won't be this bad for the rest of the year. I think Ober will even out with hopefully a improvement in health. coming forward. Paddock, he wasn't the guy that he was earlier this year. I don't think, but he also wasn't the guy that he was with his blow up start recently. So there will be kind of some regression to the mean there. So I think it'll be fine, overall. But on the position player front, Willie Castro had a really good series again. He's kind of been a road dog more or less. He's been really hitting well on the road, so that's been nice to see. But yeah, I just wanted to really shout out Willie Castro. Again, if we're talking about trade deadline chips, if this team continues to kind of falter, he's somebody the team could get a nice package for. But yeah, I will defer to you guys. I know it's kind of slim pickings after Ryan and Castro.
Yeah, I do want to say about Ober. This is something I tweeted out, but I want to say it here too. Don't jump to thinking there's something wrong with his elbow or anything. Obviously he has potentially a hip thing, but also it's just really hard to be as big as Ober is and have repeatable mechanics, and that's something that he dealt with in the minors. That was part of the reason that he wasn't a super highly touted prospect, is because his mechanics were kind of wonky. They were able to kind of straighten those out, and they were able to add a few miles an hour on his pitches. That's awesome. But I do want as an exceptionally, not exceptionally, as a fairly large person myself, I'm about Bailey Ober's size. There's a lot of levers going on in a big body. I was not a great basketball player, but I wasn't a great basketball player. I wasn't a good baseball player at all, but I did play basketball and I could shoot a little bit. But there were just days I would just show up at the gym and my shot would be completely broken. I will have had no idea what was wrong with it. All of a sudden it was a 2-part shot instead of a 1-part shot, or just something was wrong. And it would take me a full week to figure out what my ailment was. It's not an injury or anything. So especially with somebody like Bailey Ober, obviously you never want to just jump straight to, oh, he must be injured, let's talk about his injury. But especially with a body type like Bailey Ober, I think that it's especially relevant that we shouldn't just jump toward, something is dire wrong with him. It might just mean that he has to work through this for a couple weeks and figure out his form again.
Really quick, Greg, I know that you said you are a exceptionally large person.
I'm not exceptionally large.
And Peter's here, so I thought that we would make a film reference. So, I don't want to dox Greg, but it actually, Greg is Charlie from Darren Aronofsky's The Whale. That is who Greg is. He is a real person. I just wanted fans to know that's who Greg is.
That's okay. Is
he
Charlie
won an Oscar,
from The Whale? Is that the Brendan Fraser character?
Yeah.
How dare you? Okay. Well, not that there's anything wrong with that, but
no.
Come on now. Anyway, Peter.
Just to quickly piggyback on Ober, it's just been weird, obviously, this whole year. In spring training, the velocity was down, and then he kind of got it back up. But I forgot. I know one of the beat writers maybe talked about this, right? But when you have someone who is that big and isn't a 98, 99 kind of guy, right, as soon as the mechanics get a whack, it kind of starts to throw the entire thing out of whack. And I think obviously we just saw that against Texas, where it wasn't happening at all. And I think, it'd be one of those things, I think genuinely, if both Zebby and Pablo weren't down, they would be hey, why don't you take three rotation starts off. It's just right now, when you're kind of battling, when the standings are starting to matter, that this kind of starts to feel like it's way more important. On the plus side, it's tough because the two players actually we should be talking about both went out on Saturday's game, Byron Buxton and Royce Lewis. Buxton, of course, had his fantastic game against Texas, where he hit the 467-foot bomb. That's further than both Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge have hit balls this year, which is very, very impressive. I believe it's second only to a Mike Trout dinger. And then he also, in that same inning, he had a fantastic catch. The big thing with Buxton is that he's been walking a lot more. He's really starting to see it at the plate, be very, very patient. And then we saw in Saturday's game, got hit by a pitch, originally was scheduled in the lineup today before being scratched, so we don't know his status. My guess is we'll probably see him in Cincinnati, maybe in a reduced role. But we kind of, it sucked to lose your probable all-star. Royce Lewis also, again, started to look really good at the plate, started to find those singles, those doubles, at least one home run this week, I want to say. Maybe I forgot when he hit it, but a lot of good hard contact. Actually, if you look at his Savant page, it's in that sort of unshaded because he's not qualified, but it is like full of that red you want to see, right? And it feels like, okay, maybe he had that unlucky streak was genuinely unlucky. And of course, rounding the bases, pulls up with the hamstring at first and goes on the IL. Sounds like the MRA is not exactly great. Is this another 1 month injury? Is it 2 months? And just as he was figuring it out, and you just, this is Twins territory as we're used to. It is what it is. But, and then obviously the bullpen's been very solid. Obviously we saw Johan Duran blow it twice, but those are 1-run games. It's an unfortunate set of bounces. It looked like, I don't know about you guys, if Willie Castro should have had that catch on the Cole Sands hit on this Sunday game in extras, but I don't know how much it would have mattered. But I think the bullpen, which obviously Jonah Bride's been doing most of the pitching, but the good guys, I think particularly today, right? You saw Rocco Baldelli pull Simeon Woods Richardson after 53 pitches in 5 innings. And, I was listening to the Astros broadcast because I like those guys, and they were questioning what that was, right? Isn't this guy dealing? And I think we know SWR well enough to be like, that's probably the right decision. Brock Stewart comes out, looks great. Louis Varland finds a little trouble, but works his way through 2. And then Duran, unfortunately, gets caught up with a few bad pitches from the umpire, and then just a couple of unfortunate hits that, are going to happen from time to time. The stuff's there. The pitches are there, very bizarre, right? Altuve on that one, Duran was throwing, I forget if that was the splinter, the slider, that's just like curving all the way out of the zone. And Altuve's just chasing it anyways, because he's just trying to get the guy over. And so it's just an unfortunate set of circumstances, but I still kind of believe in this bullpen to pick them up, whether they can, run as much as they have to with these pitchers who can't go necessarily more than 5 innings is going to be tough.
Yeah, back to your SWR point, we were talking about this before the episode, and I think all 3 of us were not surprised that it happened, and all 3 of us were in agreement with the decision. I mean, it did, you could make an argument that it was premature, but I think, I don't think there's much controversy around it, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, like the old head in me says just let him keep going. However, we've seen that trailer go off the rails. I don't think that that's how the line goes, but we've seen things really go wrong with Simeon Woods Richardson, especially on the streak that he's had. Like, he has not had a good major league start in months at this point. So I would have been totally fine if they gave him the 6th. But at the same time,
it's a 1-run game, right? Like, game. And they've been on a losing streak. You really, really want to win it. You have an off day. It feels like I use the bullets in the chambers just to get the team back on the right track. And
none of this matters. We're not having this conversation at all. It's a brilliant move by Rocco Baldelli, whatever. If the offense just, scores 2 runs instead of 1 on a Brooks Lee home, like that's not going to win games really ever. I mean, you're asking that bullpen to walk a tightrope. You also would have been asking Woods Richardson to walk a tightrope in that circumstance. It's not like there was like room for him to make any mistakes whatsoever, especially if, the lineup turns over. If he gets those 2 outs, like, he's probably coming out anyway, even if he's only at like 60 pitches.
Yeah, I think Chris Atterbury put it really well in the radio broadcast, actually. Because there was the element of, Sim was back in the Houston area. He's from the area. He went to high school there. He was drafted out of high school by the Mets. But then there's also, you've lost 7 of 9. You're just walking a very tight rope. You want to, have Stewart, Varland, Duran, your high leverage guys. So it was the situation was unfortunate. If they had to score 3 runs, you let Sim, keep going. But that's not the type of game the Twins offense is letting the pitchers throw right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So the last one that I wanted to touch on before we start complaining, Ty France, shout out Ty France. He had a 24 game on base streak snapped. He is still on the season. He is a slightly above average hitter. But he's been defending. Cody and I spent a little bit, probably too much time on the last episode discussing Ty France. But I just wanted to say Ty France is still swinging the bat fairly well. So
we should shout out Brooks Lee, who's on a 15 or 16 game hitting streak right now, including the 2 homers now, one from each side of the plate. In terms of Brooks Lee's upside was never all-star, but a solid second baseman, shortstop fill in.
I think he could sneak into a couple all-star games over the course of a long career.
Definitely. It feels like we're not seeing the top of him right now.
Right.
But right now he's kind of just providing that solid offense that literally no one else is providing.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, his first week in the majors aside, this is the best he's looked over a extended stretch, which is really nice to see. And I know in the last episode, Greg and I were like, this is the most 1-for-4 hitting streak ever. Where you have a single, you're just driving to the pull side, but his power has come around. He's hitting the ball harder now, so that's really encouraging to see. And I'm excited. I really think at the end of the year, Brooks Lee could be a guy whose OPS is hovering around 800.
I think that's a little bit strong, but sure. I think that there is the world out there.
Shohei Ohtani will start tomorrow against the Padres.
Oh wow!
Oh, really? Oh man!
Yes.
Wow. That feels
breaking news.
But...
Okay. Anyway, speaking of news, I don't know. Let's talk about the bad stuff. Peter, who's not hot right now?
God.
If you want to just read the whole 40-man roster.
I've got them last 14 days weighted by WRC plus. Jonah Bright at -57, Carlos Correa at 46, Cody Clemens at 48, Harrison Bader at 77, Ryan Jeffers at 86, tied with Christian Vasquez at 86, Matt Wallner at 95, Trevor Larnach at 96. Right, those are not good numbers by anyone. I'm really starting to, I've kind of been a Correa defender for many, many years, and just getting sick of watching him with bases loaded as he came up at one point during what I believe the Texas games, or maybe it was the Astros games a bunch of times today, right? Clutch moments where it's just all you got to do is hit a single or a hard double, and just seeing him ground out softly into the side. I know it looked like he was turning it around at some point. It just looks like it's kind of lost at the plate. And even, the defense on, I feel like in one of those games cost the Duran at one point. I forgot. So yeah, there's just what is this lineup? It's just you can slot them in any order that you want, and it just still feels like the lineup's just rolling over. And it's just not pretty to watch. Particularly, I think, it looked for a while they're getting more on base, especially, and then just not seeing any conversions on it. It's just what do? You can't lose. You can't win games when there's only 1 or 2 runs, right? And I think obviously the one game that the Twins won against Texas was the score 6-2. I forgot exactly what it was at the end. Yeah, 6-2. 6 runs will win you a game along with good pitching. And we just haven't seen the hitters. It's the same story that we've been telling all season long. And I just feel like we're probably on repeat, but the hitters need to figure out what's going on at the plate, especially if we're losing Buxton, we're losing Royce Lewis just as he's figuring it out, right? What is the process here? There's no reinforcements coming except for maybe Luke Keyshaw in a couple of weeks. And I don't know what we do from there.
And if Luke Keyshaw is the one that you're hanging your hat on, you have no idea what you're going to have.
Yep.
And that's terrifying. It would be nice if there was 3 Luke Keyshaw types, if Emmanuel Rodriguez was healthy, right? And he was crushing it at AAA, and it's not sure what you're going to get from him, but at least you can get excited about somebody like that. Right now they just called up Deshaun Kersey Jr., which, nothing against Deshaun Kersey Jr., but he's not going to play. Right now they have 2 guys on their bench right now who are just not going to play between Kersey and Jonah Bright. They had a platoon lineup out today, and in the original version of it, Jonah Bride was not going to start until they scratched Buxton. They were starting Matt Wallner in right field over Jonah Bride at DH or whatever. Castro would have been in the outfield, so he could have played third base. There's not some sort of band of reinforcements that are coming to make you a little bit less uneasy about where the team is right now. And like you said with Correa, I don't know what to make of it. Like his defense is still been very good, even if there are some cracks. But just he needs to hit. If this team is going to go anywhere, he needs to hit. I 100% agree with you on that. Cody, what's caught your eye in a negative way? Oh, I'm sorry. I also wanted to point one other thing out. This is like a miserable baseball to lose. They have not lost a normal game in what feels like 2 weeks. They've either been walked off or blown out. I'm looking back through the schedule, and I'm blanking on like how the Blue Jays games ended, but they lost a 4-6 game on Friday, June 6th, 9 days ago. I feel like that was the last just like normal loss that we've watched them. Everything else has been some sort of heartbreaker or some blowout. It's just like, this isn't fun to watch at all.
Just one more thing I just want to add. So Rocco Baldelli started Wallner today against this rookie lefty for Houston, whose name I forgot. Wallner's hitting 150 against lefties, right? But this is like kind of being forced into like someone has to hit against lefties. And Matt, like, we know you can't do it, but yet you're on that train now because there's no other bullets in the chamber to use, right? That's the only.
But Jonah Bride could have. That's the crazy thing is like you've got a righty on the bench and like Rocco Baldelli, the most platoon happy manager or one of the most platoon happy managers in baseball, is like, no, I don't want to play that guy against lefties. It's like, what are we doing with these two empty bench spots? And then a third bench spot goes to Christian Vazquez, who's actually having a decent year by his Twins standards, but also like. It's not like there's a ton of functional utility in that. And so like normally then you've got those three on the bench plus either one of Bader or Lee probably, or potentially Clemens soon. It's possible that like Clemens becomes that level of guy again. And I don't want to think about what the team looks like if Cody Clemens is back in I used to call Bride and Clemens, since they just sat next to each other on the bench for weeks at a time. I called them Jody Clyde anyway, Cody, what's caught your eye?
Yeah, some could say Cody Clemens is turning back into a pumpkin.
Oh, come on, that's bid infringement.
that's a Clemens thing. No, so I think it's important to look at the dichotomy of the bench. When the team started 7-15, that was there was players like Edouard Julien and Jose Miranda who were producing it at a sub replacement level.
Mickey Gasper.
Mickey Gasper, Kersey, even though he was barely even playing, but point still stands. But then you had guys like Clemens come in, insert himself. He hit like Aaron Judge basically for like a month. And then you had Bride, who was respectable. He was hovering around like a 100 WRC plus with Minnesota. But then during that time, the pitching was incredible, but the team was winning. And those guys are kind of playing factors into that. But since they've declined, it's kind of like you reverted back to the earlier season form where Julian wasn't hitting and Miranda wasn't hitting. Now it's just Clemens is kind of taking the Julian role and Bride's kind of taking the Miranda role, where it's like, okay, you just are very thin on the offensive front. So it's kind of interesting. I think about depth a lot with the Twins, and like how in 23 a huge driving factor as to what made them make the postseason was the fact that their depth with guys like Solano and like that were a big reason why.
Right.
It's just like whenever the Twins are going well, it feels like it's because they're getting good production from their complementary players. Even Jeffers and France and Lee, if you want to call them complementary, you could honestly call them core, but I don't know. Maybe Lee, but I mean, I think with this team, kind of everything goes with how the bench and the complementary guys are going. And right now they're down, so the team is down.
It goes also to the pitching too, right? Like this was like the 6 games that we're covering here. besides Joe Ryan and half of an SWR start, because his start against Texas was abominable. And like, obviously coming back from the minors, he's got the jitters or whatever. They saw whatever stuff he has. And I mean, even watching today, SWR stuff did not look particularly fantastic. He got 4 strikeouts. He was efficient. There wasn't that many hard hit balls. It just seemed like
they were jumping on the first pitch so often.
Yeah.
Like it almost seemed like they weren't giving themselves a chance to do damage. But anyway.
100%. Festa obviously got the win in the one game against Texas, but again, his stuff looked jittery. And then Paddock, this is kind of the Paddock starts that we were expecting all season. And like, this team needs Paddock to turn back into what he was. And obviously one start, we're not going to like say it's doom and gloom from there, but like, wow, if like these pitchers do not perform over this next like period, it's very, very good in trouble. They're probably going to need a spot start with someone within this next 10 game period. And it's going to get really dicey really fast, because I don't know who's making that spot start. It's not probably Corey Lewis. So it's a big question mark.
Yeah. You might see Travis Adams potentially like go 4 or something, but that's also like, I don't know. And granted, I think a lot of spot starts are somewhat short, so you do have to rely on the pen. However, when you're looking at the rotation and you've got Ryan, who you feel good about, Ober and Paddock, who have given you reason to trust them, except they make you feel really queasy right now for Ober, and just overall for Paddock, even when things were rolling for Paddock, even before this blow up. Every time, like you wanted to feel good, but you weren't. At least me personally, you weren't fully trusting it. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back out and he'll be fine. But you got those two that make you queasy. Then you've got Festa, who, I mean, that second to last start makes you really nervous. And Simeon Woods Richardson, it's like both of these guys have not like proven anything. And for a team that was so reliant on their pitching for their good stretch, it's really kind of scary to think like what this team could look like if they're not getting, I don't know if they would get top 5 pitching for the rest of the season or whatever, if everybody was healthy, but you're probably not looking at like a top 15 potential rotation right now, unless things start to turn around.
And plus, given the offense, the fact that the offense is probably like right now, I don't know. You could actually argue that it's like bottom 10 in baseball. I don't know how the numbers look, but it's like, if you have like the 15th best pitching in baseball and then like the 21st best offense, it's like you're not really playoff bound at that point.
Well, at least everybody else just keeps losing too. The entire division, like I think I think combined the entire division is like on a 14 game losing streak right now or something silly like that.
Kansas City's like 3 games below 500.
Surprisingly, the Twins actually over the last 30 days have a 14th best MLB hitting offense.
Yeah,
rated by WRC Plus.
And unfortunately, they didn't really show up in the last week or so. That was so. Yeah, I try to look it up. I feel like the Twins are like 500 over their last 32 games right now, but in the worst way possible. So
it really is like a repeat of last year. It really is a repeat.
Except this is way earlier, right?
Yeah,
this isn't
at this point last year. They were like the 106 pace team. Fantastic vibes. Every pitcher's going. The hitters are all there. Correa was there. Buxton was there. Like we're waiting on Royce Lewis to come back. Like that was like the vibes. Like, okay, this team's going to put together. And then it came off the wheels in August. It just feels like, and maybe we just get through that. You get through this, bad stretch now, and then hopefully come back in July and feel like better. But it feels like this is going to be a pretty dangerous stretch over these next 2 weeks, particularly.
Yeah, and I think that if they have it, like what they honestly at this state, what they need to just try to do is go 500 and just tread water, maybe even be a little bit below 500, and hopefully by when you're in July and you're getting pitchers back, you're getting Lewis back. Maybe, who knows? I don't know how long Buxton's going to be out. I'm sure it's going to be just a couple days. Nah, I don't know. I'm not going to estimate anything. But anyway, we're going to probably get into some other downsides as we read off listener gripes a little bit later in the show. I've got some good questions to ask based on these gripes, so I think that the discussion will be pretty good. But so let's jump into picks to click real quick. Okay, so our picks to click, we Cody and I, because we don't know what we're doing. On the previous episode, just forgot to do picks to click. It was not an intentional thing. We realized it later in the show that we just forgot to do it. This is what happens when Sweet Lou isn't around.
Well, you did ask me, and I said no.
I know, but I asked you like at the end of the episode, do you want to do picks to click? We forgot to discuss it before.
like what?
So. The most recent time that we did picks to click, we had our thing was strikeouts by not by a reliever, strikeouts by a starter. Tom had Ober at 11, Greg had Ryan at 10, and Sweet Lou had Zebulon Matthews at 12, ahead of our previous episode. So Sweet Lou picks up his first point of the year. He is tied with Cody, who did technically win, even if he was not around to accept his award for his first ever win in picks to click. I'm sure it will never happen again. But our new picks to click over these we've got 13 games before our next off daily episode. Because we are down in the dumps, we decided to have some fun with it. We're going to ask who is going to ground into the most double plays for the Twins between now and the 30th. So, Peter, you're the guest. What name do you want to have?
I'm just going to pray on a Correa bounce back and instead go with Trevor Larnach.
Trevor Larnach. Okay. Do you have any reason? Do you want to dump on Trevor Larnach real quick? Or
fine, right? Like, I don't know. Like, did we see him at all? I guess I missed parts of the Houston game on Saturday, but I forget if he was even in the lineup. He wasn't in the lineup today, but I just feel like
he's been struggling.
He's just there, right? It's just like he's there.
He's striking out a lot.
He's got 728 OPS on the season, which is basically in line with a little below what he's had in some previous season. It just feels like, it's like kind of like I'm curious actually, like I think in another team, he would be a good, solid bench player. He would be the Jonah Bride or Deshaun Kersey of a team or what have you. Instead, he's just kind of there in the lineup most days and feels like, and he's usually hitting near the top of the lineup. So that's why I think he'll probably hit in some double plays.
That's fair. Yeah. Right now, Larnach is just kind of like your run of the type of player that I feel like the Cleveland Guardians should always be trying to find and never do. Just like he's fine. He can stand out in the corners. He has a league average to slightly above league average batting line. And he's just like a standard lefty corner outfielder right now. And maybe that's just who he is, which isn't the end of the world, but it's also not, maybe the Trevor Larnach that everybody was hoping for. Cody, who do you think is going to ground into the most double plays between now and the 30th?
Yeah, Larnach's kind of like if Daniel Schneemann won a College World Series.
I actually saw Trevor Larnach in college. It was a USC versus Oregon State game.
Ooh. Yeah,
there was like 4 or 5 players in that game. I
forget
they were all in the majors.
That would have been a good game to see at that time.
Okay. I am going to go down the path of least resistance and say Carlos Correa.
I was going to say, Cody, are you're just going out of your way to not choose Carlos Correa?
No, I'm going to pick
Correa. I mean, this is why you never win, Cody. Is like you have Carlos Correa and you're fighting against yourself to find somebody else. Like, well, actually, maybe Jonah Bride. I could talk myself into Jonah Bride if he gets a lot of no.
Well, no, the one that I won was like most strikeouts by reliever, and I picked Griffin Jacks.
See, this is what you need to do. Like more often. I'm going to say Ty France, actually. He just puts the ball in play a lot. So, and he's not fast at all. So how many times has he grounded into a double play this year? 6. That's not great. Oh my gosh. He had a 25 2 years ago in Seattle. let's get those numbers up, Ty. Okay, cool. So that was our picks to click. And I think it's time to play the gripes music. All right. Everybody's favorite segment. Lou says that I've got something to get off my chest, I think, when he introduces this. Mostly we're going to let the listeners get some things off their chest. As I put out a call for gripes. Amazingly, I think we're more successful in getting gripe bags than mail bags because I sent this out like 3 hours before the show and got 9 responses. So we'll talk through those. I'm going to start with a very quick gripe. If you follow me on social media, you might be aware of this, but I was accidentally featured in Sports Illustrated this week for a joke tweet that was taken seriously. And it's a weird position to be in. People are like sending it to me and I open it up. And for those of you who don't know, I had a running bit on Twitter where I would pick out like silly things that like as mostly a joke. Oh man, the Polad family just saved X amount of money on this weird trick, whatever. And it's like, oh shoot, sorry, I just kicked my chair. Like sending Iverson Castellano back to the Phillies, that netted them $50,000. And every day that Randy Dobnak is on the active roster, they don't have to pay a minimum salary player in his position. So he was on the team for like 4 days, and that saved them, I don't know what, like $15,000 or something. And so I was like keeping track of it. Some people have made note of the fact that the Twins have had a practice of sending guys down a day early. So, you know, not having a full 26-man roster. If they're going to activate somebody after an off day, they might just send somebody down the day before the off day. I don't want to say it's so that they can't pay them. It's possible that it could be for like starting their clock. If you've got to be in the minors 10 days, you send somebody down, sure. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly why they're doing that practice. And I don't really care all that much, to be honest with you. However, that was part of that thread. And then somebody from Sports Illustrated, in writing about that Twins practice, cited my tweet that erroneously, a number that was sort of made up, said that I claimed that the Twins have saved $100,000 during this practice, and a link to my tweet, which I promptly deleted. So if you are listening, author out there, and you're mad at me.
Say his name, Greg. Say his name.
I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Will Regitz.
Will Regitz. That's okay, sure. I don't want to call him out by name, but I guess Cody will.
I do. I have Vikings beef with him. So.
Okay, Cody, sure. Grind your axe on the old Greg Grindstone. But yeah, that was a weird experience. My good friend Jeff Fry picked up that tweet and was tweeting at the Major League Baseball Player Association about it. It's a weird position to be in, especially for a topic that I really don't personally care all that much about, and that was mostly a joke, tongue in cheek, that was not supposed to be taken as like a regular report. So that's just an uncomfortable situation. That's my gripe, but we also have some listener gripes that I'm going to pull up real quick here.
Greg, this is a good lesson that there is quite literally no discernment between bits and reality in certain platforms that you engage in often.
And that's honestly, I'm going to probably change the way that I tweet. Like, yeah. I'm going to use this as a learning experience. I'm going to try to be a little bit more obvious when I do silly things like that. And I'm probably not going to engage in them quite as much, because I know for a fact that I do blur the lines on some of that stuff. So obviously, like some of the fault falls with me on that. And like, I think I mentioned on one of the platforms, like, I am well aware that there are a handful of people who follow me who think that I'm being real. Like, they follow me because like the silly things that I tweet, they think are real and they agree with it. I try not to think about that too much, but it definitely, like, once in a while I will see like one of the usual suspects engaging with my tweet, and I'm like, oh no, I'm making fun of you. Anyway.
I had a lot of bits when I was a film critic in my past life, and when I tried to move on from the bits, I realized there were too many people who really, really were into the bits, and I was like, all right, we got to get out of this entire business.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get lost in the sauce pretty quickly. I will say you should not get rid of Guardians Greg though.
Guards Gregory, I don't know.
Guards Gregory.
Guardians fans are too down in the dumps right now. I've said like I need Guardians fans to be ahead of the Twins because they won't get in the mud until their favorite team is winning, which I think is baby behavior. I think that's very soft of them. I love slinging crap at them, but they won't engage unless they feel like they are the winners. Anyway, okay, let's get into some listener gripes. So, Confessions of a Peacemonger, great name. I think that both of you are probably be real big fans of this Peacemonger guy. Maybe Royce Lewis needs a deep cleanse to purge toxins, followed by attention from a full-time nutritionist. I swear that guy has built up toxicity from childhood or something. Twins fans are feeling it. I don't exactly know what this tweet means.
So I asked Craig from Baseball Prospectus if there was a way to track this. But I was noticing near the beginning of the season, there were a lot of illnesses throughout Major League Baseball. Like the Twins had it for a little bit, right? I think I forgot Ed Julian had illness for a few days, and I forget a few other pitchers. But like this was like through the entire Major League Baseball, and I'm just convinced people are chugging raw milk and like getting sick or it's just other Make America Healthy again. Like I'm taking this supplement that my dietitian does not approve, but because of the union rules, we cannot tell you what you can and cannot ingest. And I'm convinced that more and more players are just pulling up the weirdest TikToks, Instagrams, and doing their own health regimens, and it's screwing their entire bodies.
Drinking Gallo.
I mean, it's all fun and games until Joe Ryan takes ivermectin. Bryce Harper, yeah, he's on that raw milk. He's on that raw milk grind. I think we need to send Royce Lewis down to Kentucky, and he can have a interaction with the Kentucky ayahuasca shaman. And then we need to have Royce take ayahuasca, and then he will have his experience with demons, right? Because you see demons when you're on ayahuasca, I think. And then somehow that will cure his soft tissue injuries.
I don't know that you want to be summoning demons.
You don't summon them. You see them.
You know what, Cody? I think we're going to move on from this one before we get demonetized or deplatformed or
demonetized. Where was the monetized?
I owe you guys some beer.
Juicy Lucy.
All right, so we've got Hank Prime Conger, big fan of the show, enemy of Cody.
Yeah.
So Hank's complaint is, no, I have no gripes. Everything is perfect. No complaints. Everyone is doing their best. Absolutely no problem with any single thing. Bride on the roster, love it. Batting fifth. Did Brad bat fifth today? Is that what? He just said batting fifth. Maybe should have been higher. Our hottest hitter batting eighth. The perfect spot. Deshaun Kersey Jr. recalled. Great choice. A+, everyone. Let's talk actually really quick about with Deshaun Kersey getting called up. Is there somebody else that you guys would have preferred to see in his place for this? Because Lewis
I honestly thought it was weird when they sent him down because he actually has a utility on this role, which is like very good defense and also running. Yep. I was going to mention this later, but I went to a couple of the games in Sacramento, and I'm still working on a piece about that experience. But I ran into like family of Deshaun Kersey Jr. They had the jerseys. They had a poster, which of course they learned they could not bring in because you can't bring in posters into Sacramento because of John Fisher. And I told him, I'm like, I was kind of confused by when they sent him down and kept Jonah Bride. I mean, obviously there's a reason you do it because like if you get rid of Jonah Bride, he might go to another team. But I was just like,
Oh no,
he
what
has a
would we do without
role
our
on this
favorite
team.
knuckleballer?
It's a small role, but it's like a useful role, which is go play good defense and run if we need you there.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by it as well. I think I just don't understand, and I wrote about this, and it shouldn't have been like I didn't mean for it to be like an attack of Jonah Bride. It's just like what is he on the roster to do at this point? Deshaun Kersey, I feel like I don't know if he's your 14th guy. I think that it's fine. He doesn't start much. He's a good defender. He can be used to run. He's a useful player, especially with the team that they kind of had, where they had a backup outfielder and a backup infielder. You really don't need a highly used player in that 14th spot. But I guess it's weird to replace Royce Lewis with Deshaun Kersey, especially if we're not sure how much Jonah Bride is going to be playing.
Yeah,
Ed Julian. Sorry, just quickly. Ed Julian has like a 114 WRC plus in the Saints, and like I'm not against calling him up. I don't know what's there, but like I wouldn't be against bringing him up.
I was gonna say I would have probably preferred Julian. I think there probably is more merit to the idea that he could be producing better offensively than Clemens right now. Probably it probably is reason to believe he's better than Clemens. Also, to your earlier point, Peter, did you get emotional the first time you drove in Sacramento?
No.
Okay.
No, it's actually a fine city. I almost at one point my wife was deciding between going to law school in San Francisco and Sacramento, and I thought, well, if I would prefer not to be in Sacramento personally, but you know what? It's a fine spot. It's got some good restaurants, and I'll leave it at that.
Greg, I think he got the Ladybird reference. I think he got the Ladybird reference. I'm very proud of that one. I keep bringing it back up.
Anyway, yeah. I don't know. I feel like they just didn't have another option to like. I think maybe like 3 weeks from now it could have been Peyton Neals. But we haven't seen
hitting
that
at all in AAA.
No. I don't know, man. I just think that there isn't that depth that they were hoping to have right now.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned it earlier, like you're really just looking for Luke Keeschel to come back. Like that's really the guy that you can look forward to.
Which we're depending on 1 week of amazing, Aaron Judge like play being real. I guess closer to maybe a Bobby Witt Jr., but yeah.
I mean, and I guess this is sort of the Cody Clemens thing too, but the one thing that I do cling to on Keeschel is it's not like he was just like dinking and dunking. He wasn't like hitting a bunch of dribblers that were getting through. Like he was driving the ball pretty well. He was running well. So we'll see.
I'm really high on Keeschel. I probably have unrealistic expectations, but I think there is reason to think like he could be a 120 to 130 WRC plus guy pretty consistently.
100%. Yeah. It's just that's a lot to ride on like a mostly untested person.
Yeah.
I would take 100. I would take 100 right now, and that would be an upgrade in the lineup. So
over Clemens.
Tyler, the Twins guy, big fan. TJ. My gripe is that Rocco very clearly has guys he doesn't want to ever use under any circumstances. There's a breakdown between the front office and the coaching staff in that area. Guys on the team who the coach refuses to use. Sure ain't ideal way to do this thing. I think we've kind of touched on that, basically, the Jonah Bride and Deshaun Kersey.
I also don't think that's the case. I don't think there's like a breakdown between front office and Rocco. I think they're very much so on the same page, and they're just kind of, they're pretty thin depth wise, and there's just kind of guys who need to take roster spots. I don't think there's any disagreement between Rocco and Falvey in the front office, and I don't really think there ever has. But I've never understood that narrative. I feel like it's reaching for straws.
Yeah, I guess the only one that I could see is just like Jonah Bride not playing at all, but being on the roster anyway for like roster reasons. But at the same time, I can't, like, it's not like these things are going to be dictated from on high. And I don't know, there's like a Moneyball, Brad Pitt versus Philip Seymour Hoffman thing going on where they're like, play Jonah Bride, and he refuses to put him in the game or anything.
But yeah, like do you really think Falvey and Jeremy Zoll are being like, we gave you Jonah Bride, you're not playing him? Like, like there's very much so a understanding of there's a nuance to it, and it
also feels like teams have figured out the secret sauce, which is put in a lefty, whether it's Patrick Corbin, who, to be fair, has been actually very good this year, but also, again, I don't remember his name at all, but this Astros player making, I think, his second or third start of the season and like going 7 innings against the Twins, just because like they're helpless whenever lefties in the lineup, and it just feels like there's nothing to do.
Brandon Walter is his name.
Brandon Walter.
So
my fantasy team.
Like we just kind of mentioned, I think that it's more of they just don't have the options that you would prefer in terms of depth or alternatives, because most of the players at AAA who would be called up instead of Deshaun Kersey or would replace Jonah Bride, we've seen them already. With the exception, I mean, I guess we haven't seen Eels. Ryan Fitzgerald we've technically seen, but like also who's waiting on that breakout? McCusker, there was a follow-up to Tyler's, another Jesse Meehl, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, Meehl, kind of followed up, said, like, why is Kersey getting called up instead of McCusker? And I don't think that there is really, like, a place, like I could, like, if you look at the lineup today, I guess you could put McCusker in instead of Wallner in right field. You could have left Castro at third base, or I think he was at second and Lee at third.
I mean, I guess, but the hope was in a world where Byron Buxton played this game that Kersey would have taken over in left field as opposed to right field at the end of this game, and maybe he catches that ball that Willie Castro just missed.
Yeah. I mean, really, besides Julian, which I think there probably is more to talk about there, but besides Julian, whoever was getting called up into this role was not going to take on like a big role on this team in the immediate future. Besides Julian, I mean, Jose Miranda, like even he wouldn't really be a significant part of the team right now.
He has a 60 WRC.
He's not good.
Like he's essentially Jonah Bride right now, potentially. Like there's no reason to believe right now that Jose Miranda is going to be have a bigger effect on this team than Jonah Bride right now. And so if you're not playing Jonah Bride already, why would you carry 2 Jonah Brides? Obviously, I want McCusker. Like I will always want to see McCusker get a shot just because I love that player type aesthetically.
I mean, to be a broken record, I really think there is a conversation that Julian should be on the club right now, probably.
Jeez, what a great spot to be on. What an awesome spot. Okay, Twins takes. We just kind of touched on this, but I think Twins takes just wants to gripe about Willie Castro's outfield defense. Obviously, there was the play today. Just generally, Willie Castro has not been good anywhere this season. I think that
kind of breaks the point of being a super utility guy if you're not great anywhere you get put in the lineup. And at least he's hitting right now, right? And I feel like this was true last year when he, got the All-Star. Was like, well, he's out there in the outfield sometimes. He's sometimes at third base and gets by enough, but the hitting is keeping him in the lineup.
Yeah, it's not like his defense. I think that up until this year, he was a fine third baseman, a fine second baseman, a fine left fielder. There were going to be plays in left field that he just, I don't know, like there are very few outfielders that I wouldn't take over Willie Castro going back on a ball like that, just because he's not like a natural outfielder. That's a weird spot in the wall. I don't really think that there are a ton of players anyway. I guess I'm now just contradicting myself. That's just a weird, tough play.
It was a tough play. I shouldn't. I also wonder about the Buxton's amazing catch against Texas when Willie Castro almost collided with him. And I don't know if that was him taking the wrong route there. I'm not the expert at center field defense or whatever, but I feel like Castro should have taken a slightly different route to back up Buxton or something. It felt like, and obviously Buxton's Buxton, but it felt like there was something there that wasn't correct.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, like Castro's utility is less about the fact that he can play many positions and more about the fact that you have this plus bat that you can just kind of plug in anywhere and still have a plus bat in the lineup. Because like he's never really been like a good defender besides maybe third base, like you said, Gray. But like I think he is among the worst. I don't even know if he's qualified, but among the worst at second base. OAA wise, I mean, he's been really bad at second base this year, which is surprising because theoretically that should be his strongest position.
That's the position I believe he's played the most.
Yeah, and like
you still make suboptimal play if you've got him in center field or shortstop because it's like, yeah, he's supposed to be stretched there.
He's not even a center fielder anymore. I mean,
Right.
there's like 4 options I'd rather pick before him at this point.
We've got one from Jacob who says, why haven't we tried winning 1-run games instead of losing them? It's so easy. Just score one more run than the other team. You know what? Jacob's right.
There we go. Easiest solution.
I would simply not put myself in that position.
No.
If you're already down one run, you've lost. You've put yourself there.
Jennifer Warren, my gripe is why do we have both catchers playing in the same game? Neither can hit well. Yeah, I mean, Ryan Jeffers
over who's going to be in the lineup?
That's the thing.
Jeffers can hit well too. I mean, yeah.
He's at his moments. He's sort of starting to cool down, and but it's always like that's the Ryan Jeffers experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, actually, a bigger question, like, and this is actually something I think more fundamental of this team, right? Christian Vasquez is gone next year. I don't know what our plan for catching is because the AAA, who's the AAA catcher again? I forget his name.
Camargo. Yair Camargo.
Camargo. I don't like. Camargo, I think, is kind of a permanent backup. I don't see him being like the person they call up to, like, unless their plan is like Jeffers, you're almost full time now. But like, and there's not a lot. Like, I feel like if I'm this team, if I'm trading at the deadline, let's just say we hit that point, I'm trading for a top catching prospect too. I'm like convincing the White Sox to give you Kyle Teal or something.
Diego Cartaya.
Oh, Diego Cartaya was scraps.
Yeah,
I mean a serious catching prospect. I like a Kyle Teal type.
Yeah.
Noah Cardenas has looked pretty good, and he's in AAA now. But again, I don't think that's somebody you can really like trust. Patrick Winkle too, but again, like these aren't guys you could enter a season with. So we might be in like James McCann like territory next.
It's possible. I would not be surprised, and I'm generally against drafting for need in Major League Baseball, but I think that the way that the draft is shaking out this year, they might pick a catcher with their top 3 picks.
Get Ike Irish. He's sitting right there, and he's probably the top catching prospect this year.
And I don't think
he can fall to where the Twins are too in the mid-teens. Yeah.
But that's still that's like 4 or 5 years out.
Right.
Maybe I guess he's a college. Like you get out there, but like. I don't know. Mike Zunino for next year is like my choice, I guess.
Yeah. Jeffers took a year and a half to get to the bigs, but that was not normal, I would say. Because he was drafted in 18 and got up in 20. Anyway.
Well, JT Realmuto is a free agent. He's, going to be cheap.
And the Twins have saved $100,000, according to very reliable reporting. So maybe they can put some of that towards signing a catcher. Jennifer Warren, Ry Lang, a big fan of the show. Ry Lange. I'm not 100% sure how you pronounce that. I apologize, Ry. But his gripe is the offense. 6 runs, 37 strikeouts this weekend. 0 for 13 with runners in scoring position. 8 left on base in the 2 walk-off losses. Yeah, man. He also followed that up with, we get blown out, we can't hit, we pitch great, we can't hit. It's just, oh man.
Yeah, I mean, this might be like lazy analysis, but I really like, what can you even say? Like, it's kind of like,
we talked off mic about this, but like also just looking at these next 13 days, 3 against the Reds, and then at home against Mariners and who is it before you go to Detroit? It's another like actually like solid team.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee at home, and then at Detroit, right? Like that's a long lineup of teams that are more or less comparable to the Twins. And it's like you're just praying to go 500, as you said, Greg, right? Like against this before you get to Detroit, in which you're just probably expecting to get swept.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the things that I've been thinking about is like, what is the way out of this? Like, obviously, like you're going to be incredibly reliant on your pitching, but like, what is the way, like, what are the avenues that the Twins can take to have a better offense? And so much of it is just their hitters need to hit better. But I'm almost getting to the point after, we're 2.5 months into this. It's starting to worry me that some of these guys don't have the potential to kind of hit their way out of this. And we've just got a bunch of guys who you're happy if they get to kind of being a league average bat. This lineup is so top heavy and was going into the season. And you haven't gotten a ton out of Trevor Larnach. You've gotten next to nothing, at least on Correa's scale, out of Carlos Correa. Buxton has been very good. Wallner has been very good, but they've both missed times. And then Lewis has been rough, and he's going to now miss some time again. And it's like, so you've got a cluster of guys down there that have to figure out how to hit and kind of help this offense and score, a handful of runs every night instead of like 2. I don't know, man.
The problem is we've seen like the top potential. Like every one of these guys has had a week or a couple of weeks or a month where it's just like, oh yeah, this guy is like a major league bat. It's solid. Maybe if their top is like a 110 or 120 WRC plus, OPS plus, but like there's so much potential. It's just like they're never all clicking together. And that's baseball, right? That's a sense. It's just I think when those upsides are only hitting that just above average thing, and you just need like a few guys to be shooting for the moon. And that's what Byron Buxton has been this season, really. But really only him. That's like, it's tough.
Jeez, man. I'm getting depressed. We've got one.
No, I am too. I'm like, I don't know.
I've got one more, and this might
honestly, maybe they win like 9 of these 13 games, right? Like that's actually potential. Like there's no reason they can't. It's just it's just what does happen.
I'm also just like, I'm having this like long-term, like existential, like where I'm just like the way that this team is constructed, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if anything can come of this, really.
Okay, this is, you know what, Cody? This is a perfect lead-in because this is actually going to be the most disappointing question, the most saddening question, because we might I'm not ready to take it too seriously, but all right. Fried Bryson Beans over on Blue Sky says, do the Twins need a full organizational reset? They are 392 and 387 since 2020. And save for winning an awful division in 23, finally winning a playoff game series, they've consistently underperformed and have been maddeningly inconsistent. Might be time to take this team in a new direction. And I want to preface this with saying it is not like a rebuild is not what you expect it to be 99 times out of 100. There are some rebuild success stories. There are a lot of like White Sox stories from the last decade where they are now all of a sudden in their second rebuild after having one of the most exciting farm teams in baseball. However, like we just kind of mentioned, it's a little bit difficult to see our way out of like this year. And if you look ahead of the year, I don't know how you guys feel, about 26, 27. I'm not going to like focus on, oh, geez, what are we going to do next year and the year after or whatever. But I think we should answer this question. Is there a need to consider kind of starting over in a way? I don't know.
I started, and I might still return to this piece, but I was looking at teams that had flipped basically offense and defense, kind of where we're basically I was comparing 2017 through 2019 to then 22, 23, 24, 25 with the Twins. and looking at where like the biggest flip between offense basically disappearing, but pitching becoming their excellence. And right, that's the why you get Derek Falvey over from Cleveland here and build up the quote unquote pitching pipeline, blah, 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 blah. Right. We've heard it, but it is real. Like when I looked it up, like the Twins were the most significant change team where they had the highest change in pitching. And then it was like pretty close to second and third in the drop in offense. Right. So like there's something there that has happened during the Falvey tenure that is gone very, very well for this pitching world and hasn't come together for the offense. Now, part of that is when we look at this team, I don't know how many people are actually like Falvey prospects or development stories. I guess you could say like Wallner was one. And
they're actually all other than Buxton.
Other than Buxton?
Correa. Miranda, I believe, was 2016, so that was right before Falvey took over. But like right now, like we've gotten to the point where basically everybody in the organization was either signed by Falvey, drafted by Falvey, or traded for by Falvey.
And so there's something there, and we've seen the Falvey acquisitions that work well, like Ty France this year, Donson Solano, Carlos Santana. Again, I'm just naming first baseman here.
Harrison Bader.
Yeah, I feel like Bader's finally. I mean, the defense is still fantastic, so that's all that matters. Like that's why you signed him. But like there is something. It's like why aren't the hitters developing in the way they need to be developing? And I don't know. Like that's a huge question. Like that we still need to figure out.
Cody, what have you got? What are your thoughts on this?
I'm of the frame of mind where like I don't think that MLB orgs need to really undergo rebuilds because you can just do everything in the minors. Like if you're willingly putting out a subpar major league team, that's completely like willing. Like you can do a full blown rebuild in the minors, and that's done through adequate development, good drafting, and like I really admire Sean Johnson. I think he's a really great at drafting. I think the Twins have had some really great drafts recently. And I think the Twins, player development program from the pitching side is obviously, really, I don't know if I'd say superb, but, it is, I do think there is, it's above average, but, the issue is position players, like Peter said. And it's like, I don't really know how you fix that because there's this, trend of chronic injuries, which, and I don't think there's some organizational, fault in, injury recovery and preparation and stuff like that. I think they might just, pick guys who are more prone to injury. It's similar to how the Dodgers sign players who, are more prone to have their arms go out. But I don't know. I think about it a decent amount, and because the Twins are a well-ran organization and there is a lot of competency. And like this is, a situation that many fan bases would love to be in. But at the same time, I feel like there is just like fatal flaws that will not let the org, reach a point like where they could consistently contend. I don't know. I don't know like where to go beyond there.
Yeah, I mean, if we did know the answers, we probably wouldn't be doing a podcast. We would have like jobs in an MLB front office or writing, like I don't know. So yeah, I'm vehemently against rebuilds, complete organizational turnovers. I think that if the wheels fall off, like over the month of June and July, and they sail off of the deadline, I have no issues with that.
It's like you can fire Rocco, but like, what's that going to really do?
And those types of decisions, I'm like, shoot. I mean, even if I did want to talk about it, it wouldn't really be relevant right now because they're up for ownership sale. That like nothing is going to change in the near future. But if we just assume Rocco's going to stay around, Falvey's going to stay around.
Well, and then if you're also looking at the impact a manager can make, I mean, last year Stephen Vogt was like this, revolutionary guy, but and then this year they're kind of just 500. And it's like it's Stephen Vogt. Like he's not Craig Counsell. It's not. I don't know. It's just you're not really gonna find anybody too special. I don't know.
Yeah, and I like with changes like that, it's just like if the organization decides that that's what they need to do, I don't know enough to really have an opinion on that. Which is why I don't really comment on those things.
Yeah. Same.
But for if you want to do a full player turnover or whatever, if you need to sell off at the deadline, maybe this is going to seem silly, like 2 weeks from now that we were having this conversation. But if you're looking ahead at the deadline, I have no issue with even doing some like drastic-ish things, like how they flipped Barrios with a year and a half of control, and then intended to compete the next year anyway. Sure, if you get packages that you like, absolutely. I don't know. One of the things that I really admire about Falvey and Co. is that they have not packed it in really going into any year, that they have not tried to tank. Basically, since they took over, they've been making moves that, whether they worked out or not, they were trying to win. They have been trying to win since they showed up, and I think that that's admirable, and I think that that's what a Twins fan should want. You want to be watching a team that is trying to compete. You don't want to have to check out for like 3 years, especially in a division like the AL Central, where you can take it any year. Like if you just have a good year, you can take the AL Central. And so I don't see a reason not to. Obviously I think everybody is down in the dumps right now, and it's hard to like see any like good things coming from the organization right now, just because everybody's kind of emotional. Like this has been a really bad skid. I cannot green light a rebuild or a tear down or anything like that right now.
Yeah, you never need to. And I think obviously, I think also with the financials of the team, like the last thing you want to do is like get everyone to check out of this team when it probably needs a little more profit than it's been getting in. Although I think attendance had slowly started to climb a little above last year's numbers. But 2022 was the one year where they were very adamant that it was a reload and it didn't go well, but that was just an injury prone year. Was that the year where we used 8 different center fielders and that was Rob Resnider had his week?
Yeah, 2021 was that the year where Kyle Garlick was starting in center field.
Yeah.
But
then 22 was also a rough year in terms of injuries.
Yeah. That was the year when Buxton was the all-star at the beginning half and they were in first place and it just went downhill very quickly. And then you were relying on guys like Mark Contreras and Nick Gordon and
Yeah, but it still felt like it was still the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. They traded the 2 pieces that made sense to trade at the deadline, and it put together pretty fast. And this is such a weird team, right? Because I think we've been talking a month ago, we're I don't know where the flaws on this team are, and now all we do is seeing flaws. And you could easily see that if the season doesn't go well, moving 1 or 2 pieces, and you can easily have a team that is pretty dominant against the Tigers next year or what have you, right? It feels like it could go either way. And maybe that's just the messiness, right? Because when you look at teams like the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Yankees lineup's not that great, but the Yankees, right? It's those fan bases are always in turmoil every single day anyways, and are screaming about the flaws in their teams. But it's you see the future, and this one is just you constantly feel like you're shaking the glass ball and or the 8 ball and seeing I don't know, ask me in a week, getting the answers. But so we'll see in 2 weeks. We'll kind of just see.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to Peter's point too, it's you look at these players. A month ago this team was flawless. Now all we see is flaws. It's the same players. We're talking about the same players, so I don't even know what to think. And this is I think Gleeman said this, not to steal his point again, but another thing that's admirable about Falvey is you tell Falvey he can spend $130 million and he'll spend $130 million in 10 cents. It's he does everything he can to pry as much as he can out of Joe Pohlad, and I think that's really all you could ask for from a Pobo.
Whether it wins or whether it works or it doesn't, at bare minimum, I appreciate that is his approach. Yeah. So to answer your question, I don't think any of us are on board with any sort of massive overhaul or anything. And I personally don't think that Twins fans or baseball fans in general, unless you're looking at something like the Rockies, or these teams that going into the year that they just do not have the juice. There's not like some combination of moves that you can make. If you can compete at all, try to compete. If you need to reassess, you need to retool, go ahead and do that.
You really can't think about baseball like football or basketball.
No.
It's not at all the same
And that's
thing.
a lot of it is we look at it like other sports, and baseball is something in and of itself.
Yeah.
All right. So that was all of our gripes. Let's so we decided to skip the closer, but let's do high five. I just wanted to play that because it's a funny sounding song. So looking ahead, the Twins are going to go on the road to the Reds. We've got a series against the Reds, 3 games in Cincinnati. Then they're back at home for 3 against the Brewers and 4 against the Mariners, 3 against the Tigers on the road to finish the month. They've got 13 games in 13 days to play. It's going to be a rough potential trip. It might be a good get right. Who knows? Like we mentioned, I think Peter was the one that mentioned, you just kind of hope that they go 500 over the next 10. And then come what may, when they play the Tigers, they just really need to try to maintain at least just be 500 at the end of this. And I would feel okay about that.
That Tiger game is a Travis Adams spot start.
Yeah. Just have at it
against Tarek Skubal. Just accept it.
Yeah.
Okay, so our walk-off question in the with the context of the Rafael Devers trade, what major piece do you want the Twins to go out and acquire? Cody, what have you got for us?
Christian Yelich.
What?
Hell yes.
No. I would actually love for them to go get. Well, obviously, I'd love for them to get Aaron Judge, but I'm going to go with Bobby Witt Jr. I think this team could really benefit from a young cornerstone guy. Maybe Walker Jenkins could be that in the future, but I think Witt Jr. is the type of guy that this fan base could really rally around. I'd love that.
Peter, what about you?
I just want to assume that the beef that fights Bobby Witt Jr. and the Royals is that he really wants the stadium downtown because he's a huge public transit advocate, and he just cannot accept a stadium in the suburbs and demands a trade to a team that has good public transit to the stadium, which the Twins have. Okay, you're on the light rail. They could be better. I have a very realistic trade. There's a pitcher out there. He's only thrown 24 innings so far, but he's got a 3.38 ERA. He's not necessarily. He's got 32 strikeouts over those 24 innings. He is on the Royals in Omaha, and that is 45-year-old Rich Hill, who has his opt-out end today and can sign with any other team. Let's go get Rich Hill to cover some innings. I'm ready for it.
Former Twin. Twins were interested last year.
Okay, I'm going to say it again. I put this offer out last year when we were kicking around the idea of Rich Hill. If Rich Hill becomes a Twin again, I will get a Rich Hill bootleg jersey, the baby blue cream jerseys. I believe that was his jersey of choice when he was pitching for the Twins in 2020.
Yeah.
I would say that I want to see a trade for Domantas Sabonis, but I did see that there was a lot of people in Minneapolis yesterday who were protesting against Kings. So I don't think that the Twins should trade for Sacramento King forward Domantas Sabonis, but I would like to see it.
Typical Minneapolis.
Can we get a Kelsey brother on the Twins? Can we just roll that way and see what happens? Get ticket sales at least up if Taylor shows up.
That's that's a locker room distraction. I personally would not bring a Kelsey brother in because they're going to show the girlfriend on the television. So I think that it would just be good for if you do trade for a Kelsey, I would say put a break up with her clause in the contract. Anyway.
I always think about what does Livy Dunn go through while she watches the Pirates offense? Like what goes through her brain as she watches some of the most miserable, like when we talk about bad offense, like the Twins are doing fine next to the Pirates, but like just watching like your boyfriend pitch some of the best baseball that's ever been pitched, and then just watching just a miserable offensive lineup and being like, do you think she ever has come to a non-skied start?
There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
Big Brady Falter fan. No, I bet she thinks this team could get something for Kiner Falefa.
All of those Paul Skeens trade rumors. I think that she might be the one starting them. She's just leaking them to the. I think the Pirates might be looking to move Paul Skeens. I would throw out some mock trades if I was you.
Hey, there's 2 on Twins Daily.
Oh man. Okay, I think that we've covered basically everything except that as a very bad, inexperienced leader of this podcast, I forgot to do minor leaguers. I want to really quickly give a shout out to Aaron Sabato. Aaron Sabato got called up to AAA after crushing it at AA. He is a 26-year-old. He was their first round draft pick in the weird 2020 draft. And he has just he hasn't been bad in the minors, but he has had low batting averages. He has struck out too much. But he spent the first couple months at Wichita and has a 300 batting average. He is still striking out, but not nearly as much as he was. It's more in the 20s. I don't know what's going to come out of Aaron Sabato, but like on a human level, I'm happy that he is kind of putting some good play together for the first time in his minor league career outside of like a stretch in like 2021 maybe at single A. But I don't know if he's the first baseman of the future, if he has any sort of role in the organization going forward, but who knows? So shout out Aaron Sabato. Anything you guys want to touch on minor league wise?
From the moment Sabato was picked up at the airport, this is the best that he has looked as a Twin.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
We love our Cody's at Twins Daily, so shout out Cody Lawerson, who was drafted in 2019, was kind of failed, like did not go well at AAA a couple years ago, and went back down to AA as a reliever. And then this year he's got a pitched 23 innings, 2.28 ERA, 8 walks, 25 strikeouts, kind of pitching right now as a 1 or 2 inning guy. But just last week was promoted from AA to AAA and has been scoreless in his 3 appearances so far. I would not be surprised to see if he makes his debut maybe near the end of September. If either way the Twins going, if it's just like, hey, come up and fill some innings to keep the starters off, or I think he probably might find himself in a bullpen spot maybe next year, depending on who's around. So I hope he does well at AAA.
Yeah, shout out. I think that he was like one of the names that was on the short list to get protected ahead of the Rule 5 draft a couple years ago. So it like if that kind of puts in perspective kind of the roller coaster that he's been on. So yeah, good to see a bounce back from him. But other than that, I think that this is probably we've gone long enough. I think this is our second longest episode ever.
Yes.
And the first one was also a Cody and Gregg have a guest without Lou episode. So I'm noticing a pattern.
Probably our most pessimistic episode ever.
That's maybe that was my subconscious saving some nice minor league stories for the end of the show after everybody has already turned off the podcast and cried. As they get ready for Twins game next Tuesday or this Tuesday. So yeah, like we've mentioned, it's going to be 13 days until the next off day. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? We'll probably try to sneak in an on-daily show at some point in the next couple weeks, break up the monotony a little bit. But yeah, if that's all we got, just looking ahead, we've got a 50th episode coming up very soon, which is super exciting. So I wanted to thank everybody who listens. That's all 7 of you. We love you all. But no, it's been fun. I'm sure that we'll get a little bit emotional on the 50th show, but that's coming in just a couple episodes. And then right after that, we're going to have our all-star podtacular podnanza, whatever Lou calls it. I don't know. So be on the lookout for that. Every day of the All-Star game, we are going to be releasing an episode, whether Cody shows up for work or not. But for Cody and Peter, I am Greg, and I'm wishing you all a great week. Stay old.